And joining me now is President Biden's National Security Advisor, Jake Sullivan. Mr. Sullivan, welcome to Meet the Press.
Thanks for having me.
I want to start with the security situation around the airport in Kabul. It appears to be deteriorating, and there's now a threat from ISIS of terror attacks against Americans. Is the administration considering sending more troops to try to secure the perimeter and secure the area?
At the moment, we believe we have sufficient forces on the ground, but every single day the president asks his military commanders, including those at the airport and those at the Pentagon, whether they need additional resources, additional troops. So far, the answer has been no, but he will ask again today.
How many Americans are trying to get out of Afghanistan? This has been a question that you've been asked numerous times, and we haven't known the answer. And this Sunday morning, do we know the answer?
Well, we know that it's roughly a few thousand, Chuck, but let me explain to the American people why we don't exactly know. Because when people come to Afghanistan who are American citizens, we ask them to register with the U.S. Embassy. Many leave and never deregister, or others come and choose not to register in the first place. Of course, as Americans, that's their right. So we have been working for the past few days to get fidelity on as precise a count as possible. We have reached out to thousands of Americans by phone, email, text, and we are working on plans to, as we get in touch with people, give them direction for the best and most safe and most effective way for them to get into the airport.
And about our Afghan allies, how many are you committed to getting out of the country?
Just yesterday, Chuck, we flew out a total of, or facilitated the flight out of 7,800 people, 3,900 on U.S. military aircraft, 3,900 on charter aircraft that our military facilitated from private organizations in other countries. Since the beginning of this evacuation, it's been 30,000 people total. Since August 14th, it's been 25,000. We're going to continue that in the days ahead and get out thousands more Afghans who are at risk and or who supported the U.S. military effort in Afghanistan, along with continuing to ensure that we are focused on getting American citizens out who want to leave the country.
I want to understand this August 31st deadline because this is what the president said on Friday about a so-called agreement with the Taliban. I want to play it.
We have no indication that they haven't been able to get in Kabul through the airport. We've made an agreement with the Taliban thus far. They've allowed them to go through. It's in their interest for them to go through.
All right. I want to understand this agreement with the Taliban. What is this agreement, and what was agreed to?
So the agreement with the Taliban, which is produced and reinforced daily through contacts in military channels on the ground in Kabul, is that American citizens get passage to the airport, get the opportunity to pass through any checkpoints on the way to the airport, and then it's our responsibility to get them inside. One of the challenges, as you know, Chuck, has been that once arriving at the airport, the three main gates coming into the airport have been crowded with large numbers of Afghans, just ordinary Afghans who want to get on a plane out of the country. And so we've been spending the last period working out various operational solutions to get Americans onto the airbase. We are continuing to work with the Taliban to ensure that any American who faces any challenge getting from their home to the airport, that gets resolved, that they be able to have safe passage, and then it's up to us to get them inside the airport. That's what we're doing now.
It seems, though, that Americans are getting harassed by the Taliban, and our allies are getting harassed by them. What's the fallout for the Taliban if they're reneging on this agreement?
If in the end Americans are blocked from getting to the airport, blocked from leaving the country, or our operations are disrupted, or our evacuations are in some way interfered with, we have explained to them that there will be a swift and forceful response.
What does the Taliban get in return if you believe they've upheld this agreement that you guys have negotiated with them?
This isn't some kind of quid pro quo. We haven't made any commitments. We have laid out our expectations. We have explained to them that the United States of America intends to evacuate any American who wants to leave, as well as Afghans at risk. We intend to follow through on that, and we intend to ensure that they follow through on that.
Look, there's a lot of after-action reports that are going to come out. There's going to be a lot of this fallout. But it seems that the core mistake here, it appears, in your withdrawal plan, was pulling the military out before the civilians and before our allies. Why did the military get withdrawn before the civilians? Does that, in hindsight, that looks like just a catastrophic mistake.
Which civilians are you referring to, Chuck?
Our American diplomats, the Americans to get out, our Afghan allies, all the people we wanted to get out. Why did we withdraw the military and our military support before we could get that out? Why did we hand over Bagram before we got these people out?
Let me start with our diplomats, because the plan from the beginning was to sustain a U.S. diplomatic presence in Kabul after our military departed. That was the plan from the beginning, and because we believed that if necessary, we could draw down our embassy presence in a crisis and get all of our diplomats out. We had a plan in place to do that. We did that. With respect to American citizens in Kabul, we began messaging them months ago, telling them that the situation was deteriorating and that they should leave the country. We explained to them that if they didn't have the financial resources to be able to leave the country, those resources would be provided to them. Many chose to stay right till the end, and that, of course, was their choice. And then what we did was made sure that we had a plan in place with the president ordering 3 military battalions pre-positioned in the Gulf to be able to fly in and secure that airfield so that those American citizens could be evacuated. We are doing that now. And finally, when it comes to Bagram, the best military advice that we received was that, number one, Bagram is an immense facility that would be difficult to secure over time and put our troops at risk. And second, it didn't logistically make sense from an evacuation perspective because it is located outside of Kabul, and both American diplomats, American citizens, and most of the Afghans at risk live inside of Kabul. That is the reason for Bagram, which was the recommendation offered to the president by his national security experts at the Pentagon and elsewhere.
So you followed the military advice on closing Bagram, but the same military advisors were telling you to keep a force on the ground. They told you not to pursue this withdrawal agreement with the Taliban, correct?
There are strategic judgments that a president makes, and there are tactical judgments that you give absolute premium to the commanders on the ground to make. If a commander on the ground says, I need this resource or this move to accomplish my mission or keep my people safe, you weigh that very heavily. But when it comes to the fundamental question of whether the United States should remain in a civil war in Afghanistan with American men and women fighting and dying for a third decade, that is a presidential call, not a call by anyone at the Pentagon or the State Department or the intelligence community.
The president said on Monday you plan for every contingency. If this is a plan, it doesn't look like it's been well thought out. Did you really plan for this contingency, or is this the one contingency you didn't plan for?
You know, Chuck, I know that the scenes around the airport are heartbreaking. Large crowds of people wanting to leave. I know that there is complexity and there is turbulence on the ground in Kabul. And it's very risky and dangerous because there's a genuine threat from ISIS-K. That is the reality of what we are up against. And I'm not going to sugarcoat that reality. But Chuck, let's just review what has happened. A week after Kabul fell, we have 30,000 people evacuated from the country. We have control of an airport in a city controlled by the other side after the collapse of the government. We are moving people through and out, thousands of people at a time. We have agreements with 26 nations around the world to logistically move Afghans and Americans and third country nationals out of the country into air bases throughout neighboring countries and further afield. All of that within 7 days. No plan survives first contact with reality. No plan can account for every contingency that occurs at a tactical level on a day-to-day basis. What you do is you adjust, and we've adjusted, and while we are continuing to face genuine challenges, we believe we are making progress.
Jake Sullivan, the National Security Advisor to President Biden, I appreciate you coming on and sharing the administration's perspective. Good luck.
Thanks for having me, Chuck.
You got it. Hey, thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.